Howdy y'all, welcome back, thank you for being here. Today, let us take a deep dive into the first physical globe Earth model ever created in our historical timeline. The Earth apple, or in German, Erdapfel, is the oldest surviving terrestrial globe ever created, measuring roughly 20 inches in diameter, or very similar to the globes we see being produced and placed in classrooms today, which is remarkable that the understanding of our planet hasn't really changed all that much over the last 500 years. The Earth apple was completed or founded around 1492, coincidentally the same year Columbus would sail the ocean blue and reach the New World. That should already trigger a bit of questioning of this narrative. However, I'm not here to credit or discredit the terrestrial globe model, but rather I'd like to share with you a few of the anomalies, some of the nonsense, the phantom islands and landscapes which appeared on this first globe in history. First things first, the Earth apple was said to have been created by Martin Behaim. However, the actual globe itself, divided into sections called gores, was painted by George Glockendon of Nuremberg. Here's where we arrive to what I would consider at least one of the first minor anomalies of this globe. The entirety of this globe Earth map, the actual cartography of the map, was based off the travels of Jorge de Aguiar. A quick Google search will show you that almost nothing is known of Jorge's life, besides the fact it was his adventures, his descriptions, his discoveries, which led to the Earth apple's cartography. Jorge himself does not have a Wikipedia page, and browsing through the available search results, the only information we have on Jorge appears to be related to his involvement in the Earth apple. Almost nothing else is known of his life, making it eerily interesting that it was Jorge's travels that somehow led to the first terrestrial globe being created. The second anomaly, seemingly indicating the complete lack of communication between the Scandinavian cultures and those of medieval Europe, we're told the continents of North and South America are completely absent from the Earth apple of 1492, explained by the fact that Columbus had not yet returned to Europe to share his discovery of the Americas. This appears to imply that the Holy Roman Empire was unwilling to address the existence of America, even though substantial reports of the Western landmass had already flooded Europe previously. Another aspect of history, excuse my tangent here, which often is brought to the limelight through historical research, is the fact that many aspects of history are covered up or covered over simply by other facets of history, whether it be people, cities, objects, events, claiming the same name at a later date. In most of Europe, especially in German-speaking countries, Erdapfel is the modern common name of the potato, meaning when millions of Germans and other Europeans hear the term Erdapfel, the name for the Earth apple, they don't think of the first terrestrial globe in history which reshaped how we view the entire world, but rather their attention turns to a potato. Furthermore, did you know that potatoes didn't exist in Europe until after Europeans had brought them back from America? Potatoes did not arrive to Europe until after the year 1500. The Earth apple, seemingly the model of our Earth, still being pushed by the mainstream, has at least 3 phantom landscapes which cannot be identified or located today. The first being the mythical St. Brendan's Island. St. Brendan's Island was positioned on the Earth apple far off the coast of northwest Africa in the Atlantic Ocean. The island in this myth was discovered by St. Brendan accompanied by 14 monks who landed on the island with him. The 15 of them stayed for 15 days, celebrating Mass before returning to the vessels from which they came. However, this legend also states that while only 15 days had passed to St. Brendan and his crew, roughly a year had gone by on the returned vessel stationed off the coast of the island, seemingly implying in the earliest description that time was moving differently on St. Brendan's Island. St. Brendan's Island was said to be shrouded in a deep mist and almost entirely invisible to the naked eye when passing by. A monk by the name of Barino was said to have also landed on St. Brendan's Island, referring to the island as, and I quote, the land of the promises of the saints, end quote. In this work, Barrino describes St. Brendan's Island as a thickly wooded, extremely mountainous island where the sun never sets and it was always daytime, which contained some of the most robust flora and fauna in the world, complete with a vast system of freshwater rivers and trees hundreds of feet tall, seemingly adding to our modern theory of a phantom timeline, or to the idea of hundreds of years being added to our timeline, or events in history being spread out over a wider timeline than what actually occurred. The phantom timeline hypothesis can seemingly be added to with this idea of St. Brendan's Island. The island of St. Brendan's was founded around the year 512, visited again by numerous explorers around that time period, and then subsequently lost from roughly 600 AD until the island was mentioned again in 1234 in a work by Marcos Martinez. In this work, Marcos states no one had been to the island in hundreds of years. Yet, in 1275, St. Brendan's Island is referred to officially as, and I quote, the Isles of the Blessed and the Island of St. Brendan, end quote. To wrap up this astounding theory on the Phantom Island of St. Brendan's, it was not mentioned again following 1275 until roughly 1420, when Henry the Navigator claims that one of his captains had arrived at the Phantom Island of St. Brendan's. The Kingdom of Portugal then begins an obsession with the lost island of St. Brendan's, sending numerous explorers out looking to concretely discover and establish the island for the Portuguese. This appears to culminate in Christopher Columbus's sailing to the New World, which is theorized to have involved a search for St. Brendan's mythical island. By 1520, Ferdinand Magellan claimed he found the island of St. Brendan's off the coast of Argentina. In 1566, the first regent of the Canary Islands, Perez de Grado, sent numerous expeditions to locate the island of St. Brendan's. Miraculously, nearly every expedition claimed to have either saw or landed on the island, and an estimated total of well over 100 crewmen claimed to have witnessed the landscape and landed on the island of St. Brendan's. However, just a few years later, the island was again considered to be an apparition that did not truly exist, and was not seen or mentioned again until 1719. That year, a Scottish monk claimed to have seen the island, leading to roughly 40 years of unconfirmed sightings, with the last being a letter to a Franciscan monk in 1759, mentioning how shocked the author of the letter was to have seen the island of St. Brendan's, of which the author chose not to land on the island. From 1759 onward, the island of St. Brendan's was never seen again. The second major anomaly on the 1492 Erdapfel is the fact that Japan is depicted as being an absolutely massive landscape called Cipangu, an island kingdom that is showcased as being one of, if not the largest island in the world. The Erdapfel depiction of Japan seems to arise from the accounts of Marco Polo, who described Japan in the late 13th century. Cipangu was thought to be fabulously rich in silver and gold, which in medieval times was largely correct, owing to the volcanism of the island and the possibility to access the precious ores without needing to mine or go underground. The next phantom landscape on the Erdapfel of 1492 is the Dragon's Tail, which formed the eastern shore of the Great Gulf of Thailand, replacing the phantom or unknown lands as depicted on earlier maps of the region by Ptolemy. Essentially, scholars, for some reason, believed a massive peninsula surrounded the Indian Ocean, and within these non-existent lands, a multitude of rich kingdoms were said to have existed. The Dragon's Tail is first mentioned in the Book of the Description of the Earth, compiled by Al-Khwarizmi in 833 AD. Beyond the Dragon's Tail was believed to be the Sea of Darkness, and off the shores of the Dragon's Tail was another mythical landscape known as the Island of the Jewel. We're told the Island of the Jewel formed the eastern limit of the known world according to Islamic scholars of the Middle Ages, and the Island of the Jewel was said to be a rather small island that was rich in gold and sapphire, which was surrounded by giant scales, the mountains being the scales of the dragon, for which the Dragon's Tail Peninsula was named. However, following the 11th century, the Dragon's Tail and the Island of the Jewel are rarely ever mentioned again, that is, until they are depicted on the Erdapfel terrestrial globe of 1492. Today, the Isle of the Jewel, if it did truly exist, was believed to represent Taiwan. However, other fringe theorists believe this Isle of the Jewel was possibly much further away, being California and the west coast of America. Now, the last anomaly I'd like to discuss with you today is a big one, an overarching theme which appears to go hand in hand with the idea of the 1492 Erdapfel, and that is the shape of the Earth. As a child, we were taught, at least in my neck of the woods, that the Earth was thought to be flat in parts of the world until roughly the Middle Ages, and with the understanding of the spherical Earth came the Renaissance period. Nowadays, we're told a slew of different things occurred, and all of these ideas seem to disagree with one another. In ancient Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia, the world was believed to be a flat disk floating on top of an ocean. This was also the ancient Greek Homeric belief, and I quote, "Oceanos, the personified body of water surrounding the circular surface of the earth, is the begetter of all life and possibly of all gods." End quote. Homer's description of the disk cosmography on the shield of Achilles with the encircling ocean is repeated throughout the 6th century onward. The Israelites also imagined the earth to be a disk floating on water with an arched firmament above it that separated the earth from the heavens. In this Hebrew theory, the sky was a great and solid dome with the sun, moon, planets, and stars embedded inside of it. And this model was the reason early architecture was dome-shaped, at least according to this legend. Of the scholars who described some form of flat earth in the ancient world also included Hesiod. The ancient Norse, Viking, and Germanic traditions also believed that the earth was flat, with the earth surrounded by a great ocean, with the axis mundi, or celestial pole, being the Yggdrasil, the world tree. In this theory, the world encircling ocean was also occupied by the Jormungandr, the great sea dragon. In ancient China, from the beginning of time that's recorded through the 17th century, the Chinese universally believed the shape of the earth was flat and square, while the heavens above were round. Many Chinese astronomers describe the earth like an egg. The heavens are like a hen's egg and round. The earth is like the yolk of the egg and lies at the center. Around the 6th century BC, we're told the Greek philosopher Pythagoras was the first to propose the theory of a round earth, a concept that was later pushed on the mainstream by none other than Aristotle. Aristotle also made the first prediction of the circumference of the earth, and his beliefs were made permanent by the work of Ptolemy in the 2nd century AD. In the Vedic text, one of the earliest Indian cosmological texts pictures the earth as one of a stack of flat disks. It was only in the 5th century that the Indian subcontinent assumes a spherical earth as they develop mathematical methods for quantitative astronomy, for calendars, and timekeeping. The flat earth model was common in ancient Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain universal models. It appears the only religion that held a belief of the earth being spherical and violently pushed this belief onto the world from its earliest origins was Christianity. The theory of flat Earth was described in early Christianity as the irrational belief of the Egyptian and Chaldean pagans, and the idea of the Earth being flat was made to be quite offensive to early Christians. Yet, by roughly 300 AD, it appears that Christianity too began to ridicule the idea of a spherical Earth, with many Christian teachers, including St. Augustine, questioning this veracity. Now, why do I mention all of this? The global model of Earth and the term Erdapfel can be tied directly back to the Globus Cruciger, a piece of the Imperial regalia of the Holy Roman Emperor. The Globus Cruciger is the globe of the cross, and if you ever studied history, you more than likely have seen this device depicted before. We're told the cross, laid over the globe, represents Christ's dominion over the world, and the power of the Lord, literally held in the hand of a worthy earthly ruler. When Christ is depicted holding the globe itself, he is considered depicted as the savior of the world. We're told the idea of holding the world in one's hand ties back to ancient Rome, where the god Jupiter was often depicted holding the globe, representing both the world and the power held by the Roman Empire. Constantine I claimed he had a vision where God came to him and showed him the globe and said, and I quote, "In this sign you shall conquer," end quote. Essentially, the globe has constantly been a symbol used to represent control. In most instances, the control of the very beliefs of the people themselves. The globe was also said to represent angels, and many ancient texts refer to the Globus Cruciger being gifted to the common man by the angels. If we consider the concept of fallen angels, the idea of God's angels on earth interacting with and impacting the fate of man, then we can deduce that the dome, the globe shape, the concept of power concentrated into a small object, and this overall narrative may have had heavy influence from beyond what we might consider to be the common belief of that time. This appears to be esoteric and hidden knowledge. The globe with cross also topped nearly every Holy Roman structure of the Middle Ages and appeared on the crown of the Holy Roman Emperor. The globe and cross featured on the crowns of the Holy Roman Empire, Denmark, Hungary, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Romania, Spain, Sweden, England, and Yugoslavia, just to name a few, and the globe and cross still represents any country that's associated with a monarchy that follows Catholicism. Taking this deep dive one step further, and hopefully you will stick with me for this, in alchemical symbolism, the orb with the cross upside down represents the gender of female, while the right side up orb with the cross represents the chemical element antimony, also known in ancient Arab as coal. Coal was first utilized in 3100 BC to create the Egyptian cosmetic palettes, essentially palettes for grinding up materials and creating facial and body cosmetics, which were used to differentiate the Egyptian kings and queens from the common folk. When people say cosmetics began in Egypt, their creation goes hand in hand with coal, which is symbolized by the orb, the globe, and the cross. Do you see how this symbolism begins to make more sense the deeper that we dive into it? In 1892, it was determined that coal is one of the most brittle and crystalline metals, meaning that an extremely advanced and currently lost process had to have been developed in the ancient world, which somehow allowed the coal to become malleable. This process has still not been rediscovered today. Pure coal exists in the Earth's crust, and antimony, the scientific name for Arab coal, is believed to mean monk killer, or the killer of monks, as scientists and alchemists in the ancient world were often described as monks. This again adds more fuel to our timeline, as I can't tell you how many times I've read ancient passages referring to monks doing some sort of ingenious or unbelievable feat, but it begins to make more sense when we realize that monks were the most educated people of their time, studying ancient mysticism and alchemy, and usually these monks also had training as warriors who risked it all to make discoveries that eventually would be covered over by the church. The Great Globe and Cross represents the hidden hand that seems to control all things. The Earth Apple, or the first globe Earth model that survives until today, stood in the Nuremberg town hall from its completion in 1492 for over 400 years until the establishment of the Germanic Museum in 1907. In 1994, the Earth Apple was digitized and studied for the first time using computers, a process which is still continuing to this day. The Earth Apple is considered the oldest surviving example of a terrestrial Earth model, a map of Earth as a globe, dated to 1492, and yet for thousands of years earlier, we have similar yet unconfirmed depictions all across our realm. For example, the Farnese Atlas, dated to the 2nd century AD in Rome, depicts Atlas holding on his shoulders the Earth, depicted as a massive spherical object. In actuality, it appears the true origin of our spherical Earth model and of the Earth Apple itself will continue to be shrouded in mystery as more conflicting reports continue to rise to the surface. It all appears to be plausible deniability. In 2023, the 1492 Earth Apple was admitted into UNESCO's Memory of the World, an initiative launched to safeguard the heritage of all of humanity. Make of that what you will. I'm going to wrap up my narrative on this subject matter right there, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts, your ideas in the comment section down below. This is one of the deepest dives that I've taken recently into a subject matter that I really have never heard anyone else talk about before. So I can't wait to hear your opinion of everything down below. Please like and share this video if you enjoyed it or if you felt like you learned something. Subscribe to my channel to see thousands of photographs of the old world, and I can't wait to get into this discussion deeper with you on the next video. I look forward to seeing you there.